Have you ever thought about the hidden power that might be locked away inside your own mind? Not something mystical necessarily, but a real capability you have to shape your life, your reality. It's a fascinating idea, right? And one that's, well, been around for ages, but often feels untapped. Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into a genuine classic that explores exactly this. The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. This book came out way back in 1963, believe it or not. A real pioneer in self-help, psychology, personal development, that sort of area. Our mission here is to pull out the key insights, really get to grips with the core idea, its impact, and importantly, what it could all mean for you, practically speaking.
Yeah, and what's really striking is how a book from, over 60 years ago still feels so relevant. It's quite something. Murphy managed to blend spiritual ideas with some pretty practical psychological techniques. It's almost like a manual for, well, reprogramming your subconscious to unlock your potential. He was talking about mindset long before it became such a buzzword.
Okay, so most people have heard of the subconscious mind in, general terms. But how does Murphy specifically define its role? What's the mechanism he's really focusing on here?
Right. Well, the core idea, and it's pretty profound, is that the subconscious mind doesn't really reason or argue like our conscious mind does. Crucially, it doesn't seem to differentiate much between something vividly imagined and something actually happening in the outside world. It just accepts the instructions it receives.
Instructions, like our thoughts.
Exactly. Our dominant thoughts, our beliefs, our feelings. It takes them as commands, whether they're positive or negative, helpful or harmful. It's this incredibly powerful, non-rational force driving our habits, our deep beliefs,
Right.
and yeah, ultimately, our life outcomes. So think about that. Every persistent thought you hold on to is essentially an instruction you're feeding it. The implication is huge. It means that by consciously, deliberately feeding it, positive thoughts, strong affirmations, clear visualizations, you can actually start to reprogram it. It's about reconditioning it through mindful practice. And that becomes the key, according to Murphy, to overcoming challenges, attracting success, happiness, aligning your inner world with what you want externally.
Okay, that makes sense. It operates on instructions. But how do we actually give those instructions effectively? How do we implant beliefs deep enough to make a real difference? It can't just be wishful thinking, right? What are the practical tools he gives us?
No, you're right. It's definitely not just wishful thinking. It requires focus and repetition. Murphy lays out several key themes and techniques. The first, and maybe the most fundamental, is what he calls the power of belief. He argues pretty forcefully that our beliefs, especially the deep-seated subconscious ones, literally shape our reality.
How so?
Well, the idea is that a really strong conviction, one that overrides doubt, essentially commands the subconscious to find ways to make it true. So, if you truly deeply believe down to your core that you will succeed or heal or achieve something specific, your subconscious then starts to subtly guide your actions, your perceptions, even attract circumstances that align with that belief.
Right. But cultivating that deep belief, that can be the hard part, especially if consciously, you have doubts. Is that where things like autosuggestion come into play?
Exactly. That's the bridge.
Yeah.
Autosuggestion and affirmations are crucial tools for this. Murphy explains the technique. Using specific positive statements repeated regularly, especially with feeling and conviction. He particularly highlights the times just before sleep and just after waking up. The thinking is that during these periods, the conscious, critical mind is less active, its filter is kind of lowered. So these positive ideas, these affirmations, can bypass that critical filter and embed themselves more directly into the subconscious. Repetition is key here. Over time, it influences your automatic thoughts, your behavior, your outcomes, and building right on top of that is visualization. This is another really powerful technique he emphasizes. It's about actively, vividly imagining your desired outcome, seeing it in your mind's eye, yes, but also feeling what it would feel like to have already achieved it, engaging your senses in the mental picture.
Feeling it is important.
Crucial, according to Murphy. That feeling impresses the idea onto the subconscious much more strongly. It starts to accept this imagined reality as, well, real. And then it works to align your external world with that internal picture.
It sounds very holistic, actually. Like the mind and body aren't separate things in this view. Does he talk much about physical health, that mind-body connection?
Oh, absolutely. That's a significant part of the book, the mind-body connection. He offers quite a few insights and many anecdotes about how mental states, our thoughts, fears, beliefs, can directly impact physical health. He strongly advocates using these mental techniques not just for success, but also to support healing and maintain well-being. It's about influencing physiology through psychology. And if you look at the bigger picture he paints, Murphy skillfully weaves these psychological ideas with broader spiritual principles. He often references religious texts or talks about universal laws, not really in a dogmatic way, but more to reinforce this idea that the mind's power operates within a larger, perhaps benevolent, universal system. Faith, in his context, often means having an unwavering belief in a positive outcome, and he suggests this faith amplifies the effectiveness of all these techniques.
It's clearly a powerful message, but thinking about why it's lasted. Why is this book still considered such a classic? What gives it that staying power after all these decades?
I think a big part of it is the timeless wisdom. Honestly, despite being written in the 60s, the core psychological insights just feel, well, they still resonate. How the mind works, the power of belief, habit formation, these are pretty universal human things, right? They don't really go out of date. And importantly, it's written in very simple language. Murphy managed to explain some quite complex ideas without resorting to dense academic jargon.
Yeah, it is very readable.
Exactly. That makes it accessible. Anyone can pick it up, read it, and understand the main points. That's quite rare for a book with this kind of depth, I think.
And it's not just theory, is it? I remember it being full of practical exercises, lots of real-world examples and specific techniques like the affirmations, the visualizations, things you can actually try out.
Spot on. It gives you things to do. And maybe underlying all of that is its consistently positive focus. The book constantly encourages hope, optimism. It empowers the reader, focusing on solutions of potential rather than just dwelling on problems. That in itself can be incredibly motivating.
Okay, so it has clear strengths. But, no influential book is without its critics or, let's say, points for discussion. We need a balanced view. What are some of the common criticisms or nuances people bring up about this work?
Sure. Well, one thing some readers notice is its repetitive nature.
Ah.
Murphy does tend to revisit the core ideas, belief, subconscious programming again and again, just using different examples or angles. Now, you could argue that's intentional, to really hammer the points home, but for some readers, it can feel a bit like, okay, I got it already.
Mm-hmm. Another point often raised is the lack of scientific depth, at least by today's standards.
Well, it's not a modern psychology textbook. Exactly. It was 1963. It draws heavily on anecdotal evidence, personal experience, and sort of spiritual or philosophical traditions rather than the kind of rigorous controlled studies we might expect now. It's more experiential. And related to that, some critics point to potential oversimplification. The argument is that the book might sometimes make it sound like mindset alone can fix everything, perhaps downplaying very real external obstacles, systemic issues, or, the sheer hard work often needed.
That's a fair point, that balance between internal belief and external reality.
It is. And it raises that important question. How do we integrate this powerful internal work with practical action in the world? Though, to be fair to Murphy, his underlying message isn't just think and do nothing. It's more that the right mindset inspires and guides the right actions.
So despite those points, it's undeniable that the book has had a huge impact. It hasn't just faded away. Why do you think it remains so influential, especially in the whole self-help world?
I think it's because it truly is a seminal work. It's foundational for so much that came after it. It really provided one of the first clear, accessible frameworks for people to feel like they could gain some mastery over their own minds, their own lives, and give a sense of agency, That was and still is incredibly powerful for countless readers, coaches, thinkers in this whole field.
Yeah, you can definitely see its DNA in so many modern self-help concepts. Things like the law of attraction, for instance, a lot of those ideas about positive thinking, visualization, attracting outcomes, you can trace them right back to Murphy's teachings. He really crystallized these concepts for a mass audience. So bringing it all together after this deep dive, who is this book really for? Is the power of your subconscious mind the right read for you listening right now?
I'd say it's definitely for anyone who's genuinely interested in personal growth, understanding their own mindset better, or looking for ways towards self-improvement. If you're curious about that mind-body link or how your thoughts might be shaping your reality in ways you haven't considered, this book offers a really interesting perspective, sort of spiritual psychology, you could call it. And of course, if you're looking for practical techniques, actual methods to try for building confidence, maybe attracting wealth, achieving goals, it lays out a pretty clear, actionable path that honestly still feels relevant.
Okay, so our final verdict. We're giving The Power of Your Subconscious Mind a solid 4.5 out of 5 stars. It truly is a motivational, empowering read. It guides you towards harnessing these hidden forces within your own mind, as Murphy puts it. Yes, some of the language or examples might feel a little dated, and maybe some ideas seem overly simplified if you come at it with a purely modern scientific lens. But the core principles, they remain incredibly impactful if you approach it with an open mind and a willingness to actually, experiment with your own thoughts. So here's a final thought to leave you with. If your subconscious mind really does act on every instruction it receives without judgment, what's one single, powerful, positive instruction you could start giving it? Maybe even starting today. Just one thing that might begin, even subtly at first, to reshape your reality. Something to reflect on, perhaps, building on what we've explored in this deep dive.